I think a lot of people maybe listening or watching have this moment where it was like you realize that there's ways to make money in this world that don't rely just on like a 9 to 5 paycheck. Like if you really can tap into something where there's a supply and demand imbalance and you have something that's very valuable. And so this is really what changed the whole course of our life over the next 15 years. You know, we did over $5 million in sponsorships, working with brands. That's over 600 individual deals.
Welcome to Be Bold Branding, where we discuss the power of differentiating yourself through your own unique story and standout personal brand.
What's the secret sauce that separates six-figure sponsorship earners from everyone else? Well, we've invited Justin Moore, the mastermind behind creator, wizard, and author of Sponsor Magnet, to pull back the curtain on what really makes brands say yes. After generating over $5 million in sponsorships and running an influencer marketing agency for 7 years, Justin knows exactly why some creators consistently land dream partnerships while others may get overlooked.
Justin, welcome to Be Bold Branding.
I'm so excited to be here, and I'm sure some folks might have heard that intro and be like, creator? I'm not a creator. I'm a coach. I'm a consultant. I'm like an subject matter expert. And so just stick around. Please stay tuned because I promise you're going to want to hear this.
You bet.
I love it. And yeah, this is going to be packed with information. So our takeaway is going to be great today. I'm quite sure. But Justin, we start off with like a little bit of background about our guest. You want to tell everybody briefly, a little bit of your background and what led you to this?
Yeah, sure. So I started my career in medical devices, actually, not anything related to, the creator economy, influencer marketing, anything like that. So I'm an engineer by my background. And what happened is my wife, or at the time, my girlfriend, April, started a YouTube channel in 2009. So way back in the day before you could there was no AdSense partner program. You couldn't make money really off of videos. It was very, very early days. But what happened is that brands started offering to send her free stuff. And so we were in our early 20s. We had no money. And so we were like, free stuff, let's go. Right. It's like she was in the kind of the beauty and lifestyle kind of cosmetic space. And so makeup is expensive. And so we were young. We were like, oh, this is amazing. Right. And so that was how it was for years. It wasn't like we wised up after like a month or two. It was like, oh, free stuff, keep sending it. Right. But what happened was I decided to go back to school to get my MBA at night after work. And I started taking these classes all around advertising and marketing and negotiation, and kind of the gears started turning. And I went to April one day and I said, you're getting hundreds of comments on every video saying, oh, thank you so much, April, for telling me about this brand. I just went out and bought it. Or I just went to the store. I never heard of this. Thank you. I just picked it up. Like, the value that you're providing these brands is way more than a $30 curling iron, like free product, right? And so I was like, next time they reach out, let's ask if they have a budget to, collaborate, like pay you money to actually talk about them. She's like, there's no way anyone's going to like offer to pay me money. I was like, come on, just give it a shot. So sure enough, next brand said, hey, do you have a budget? And they said, this absolutely blew our mind and changed our lives. They said, oh yeah, sure. If you could talk about us in 2 videos a month, we will pay you $700 monthly. And we were like, right? What? And so our immediate thought was like, how can we find 10 more brands just like this, right?
Sure.
And so I think a lot of people maybe listening or watching have this moment where it was like you realize that there's ways to make money in this world that don't rely just on like a 9 to 5 paycheck. Like if you really can tap into something where there's a supply and demand imbalance and you have something that's very valuable. And so this is really what changed the whole course of our life over the next 15 years. We did over $5 million in sponsorships, working with brands. That's over 600 individual deals. I ultimately ended up running an influencer marketing agency for 7 years, getting deals for other people. And then the last 5 years, I've been focused on educating people about the process.
That's great.
I love it. And I tell you, I was sharing with you before we went live, I was in the media world for 18 years, and I worked with a lot of situations where I had to find sponsors for various different things. And you'd be amazed actually how not so difficult it is. Because first of all, you've got to match them up with what do you believe, right? Your beliefs. And I'd love to have you kind of start there. Like when you're looking, let's say we have a lot of podcasters, in our audience, for instance, and speakers and so forth. And maybe they want their speaking tour, their book tour sponsored, or they want their podcast sponsored, and just as a few things, right? What would you say to those people about where do I go first to find potential sponsors?
I think we need to go a step back a little bit first to overcome some objections that I think people might have at the just right away. Like, Justin, what are you talking about? I don't want to do sponsorships. I just want to like have a podcast and shout out my own coaching program as an ad, right? Like, I don't want to like talk about other people's stuff, because why would I do that when I could like make 100% of the income on my own stuff, right? And so I just wanted to like touch on this real quickly, because I have this very firm belief that our goal with our businesses is not to make the most amount of money possible. It is to serve our audience or our customers. And if we are able to serve them most capably, then the byproduct of that will be making lots of money. And so I have this framework that I call my PSA: your products, your sponsors, and your alliances. It's called my audience first offer framework. And so essentially, most of us listening, I think, live in this first bucket, which is the products that we sell directly to our audience, right? Coaching, courses, books, speaking, right? The things that we're directly selling to people. But it's actually quite myopic to think that the only way in which you can serve your customers or your audience is by selling things to them, because they're very complex people. They have lots of challenges in their business. Likely, they're having issues with things that you don't have a product for, right? So maybe you do a survey of them and you find out what's going on in their life or their business, and they say, oh yeah, I'm a solopreneur and I'm hustling and all that, but like I have terrible work-life balance. I'm working all the time. My marriage is suffering. My relationships are suffering. Are you going to start a coaching program to help them with work-life balance? Maybe not, right? And so, what would be what would be of service to them? Maybe you could go out there and partner with the Calm app to help them meditate and get them back into balance. And so that's where the sponsors comes in. The S in this PSA was like, let me actually, I did a survey. I know what's going on in my audience's life. Let me go actually out there and proactively reach out to a brand, not brands reaching out to me. I'm going to go out there and find a sponsor that would solve that problem. And then that final bucket, it's the same idea. It's called alliances. So we go back to this work-life balance idea. Do you have a friend who's a marriage family therapist? Or do you have a friend who's a life coach? Do you have a friend who could actually help them a lot with that work-life balance issue? Let me put their offer in front of my newsletter or on my podcast, because again, it's not about you. It's not about you making the most amount of money possible. It's about serving them. And so the buried lead in all this is, I think you'll actually make more money in the end because people will trust you more.
I agree with that 1,000,000%.
You bet.
Yeah, I'm in the real estate world. I'm in the real estate business. I own a small brokerage. I tell people all the time, if you're in here to sell real estate, you're not going to be as successful as the people who are here to make relationships and have conversations, because the real estate, everybody knows a million real estate agents. You need to serve your client, right? And that's the key. I love that, because it's absolutely the truth.
Yeah. And we have a lot of what we call, and I'm going to put it on par with your alliances, but we call them our alignment partners, because a lot of our clients, we always say, once the brand is built and it's like, okay, now I have the core brand pulled together and I can feel very good and confident about how to put myself out there. Now, what does that client need or want next? Some want to start their own podcast. Some want to get on paid speaking stages. Some want to do various different things, and some may, I can imagine many would want to find sponsors.
I would hope that would be the case.
And so those alliances or alignment partners have been really great for us, because they solve another problem that our client has. What do you want next? So I can really appreciate where you're coming from with that. Now, you took all of this knowledge and you wrote a book called The Sponsor Magnet. Tell us a little bit about that and what people are going to find inside that, Justin.
Yeah. So honestly, I took everything that we've learned over the last, 15 years and distilled it into really a digestible content format that I wish I had that all those years ago. Quick story here. So in the early days, when we had no idea what we were doing and we were getting all this outreach from brands, this clothing brand reached out to us and said, hey, to my wife, hey, if we give you $2,000 worth of free clothing credit, will you make a video for us? And she was like, free wardrobe or new wardrobe? Let's go. Right. And so, sure, they sent over this agreement, and we had we didn't have a lawyer. We were young. We didn't know. We opened this up, didn't understand anything. It's probably okay. So we signed it, right? A few months later, after she had made that video, we were watching TV and a TV commercial came on with my wife's YouTube footage for this brand.
Oh, nice.
And we turned to each other and we were like, did we grant them the rights to do that? Sure enough, went back to the contract. Oh yeah, signed away broadcast TV rights for not even for money. It was for $2,000 of clothing credit, right?
Right.
And so this is like a very simple example of all the mistakes that we've made over the last, all these years. And I was like, how can I help people just avoid a lot of this really basic stuff with contracts and pitching and negotiating and understanding how to price yourself? And so really, I view it as kind of, again, an act of service, as like giving back to the next generation of creators, entrepreneurs, coaches, and so on, to try to avoid a lot of the stupid stuff we did.
Oh yeah, and also being
We've all done it.
Oh yeah, and also being an example of that, which I think is awesome even in it of itself. You know what I mean? It's and the transparency that you show with that is awesome. So tell us, like, maybe what's the most ridiculous misconception maybe that creators have about branding deals? Is there a specific one you're like, oh yeah, we can overcome that easy?
I think one that probably resonates with folks here is that they think you need a very large audience on social media. Like, I need to have 10,000 followers, or I need to have at least 1,000 average downloads per episode on my podcast, or so kind of some arbitrary number. And maybe in fact, a brand told you that one time, right? You tried to reach out to them. Oh, we only work with people who have blah, 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 this reach or something. And so you kind of thought, well, I guess that's every brand's policy. And so you just stopped. You never did it again. You never reached out and you said, okay, I'm just going to sell my own stuff. Or maybe I'll just wait until I get big enough and I'm going to get on someone's radar, an agency or a manager or some sort of broker or something who's going to do all this stuff for me, so I don't have to like worry about that. And so my main comment here is that, surprisingly, the majority of the people that we work with in our coaching program are experts. They are not large social media TikTok creators like dancing on the internet or whatever. They have deep subject matter expertise. So for example, one of my clients, her name is Dr. Alex. She has a podcast called Digital Pathology Place. Okay, so she's nerds out all over this topic of digital pathology. She's a doctor, she's a veterinarian. And so she's getting hundreds of downloads on her podcast, not tens of thousands, right. But she is absolutely crushing it with brand partnerships, because if you think about it, who's in her audience? It's the lab techs, it's the people at the medical device companies, it's the people in decision-making power at the C-suite at the hospital. And if you're medical device, if you're medical device company XYZ over here, they're thinking, we have $50 million to spend to advertise this thing. Where are we going to spend this money? Well, we could advertise in the prehistoric trade magazine that sits in the doctor's office that no one reads. Or maybe we could roll out the red carpet for Dr. Alex, fly her out to our trade shows, speak on a stage on our behalf, or fly her out to our facility and do a tour of the factory, whatever, sponsor her podcast, sponsor her LinkedIn post, this type of thing. And so this is really the objection I hope to overcome here, is it's not about how many you have in your audience. It's about the composition of your audience.
Great. That's a great takeaway.
Like what you're hearing? Hit that subscribe button and learn how you can change how you're seen and charge what you're worth.
I share this story quite often, Justin, that our greatest sales success story actually happened when we did a presentation for 16 people and walked away with 6 clients.
Yeah.
Wow.
in a matter of a 40-minute presentation. Mm-hmm. And so it really doesn't take those vanity metrics to make this happen. What it takes is the right type of audience and the right type of content. Right?
So true.
It's that specialized take on things. Mm-hmm. So in your book, you share the framework for success. Which one do you say consistently gets the biggest reaction from creators?
The biggest reaction actually is it's a very simple mindset shift. It's rather than when, let's say a brand or a company reaches out to you and says, hey, how much would you charge for 10 ad reads on your podcast, right? This is a pretty common inquiry that podcasters will get, especially, or any person, entrepreneur who has some sort of audience. And so what most people do is they just kind of stammer and they spit back a number. They go, 2,000, or they say, oh, here's my media kit. And there's a pricing page in there or whatever. They just kind of spit back that number. And so the big mindset shift that I share in my book is like, hold on a second here. We can't throw them numbers because we have no idea what this brand is trying to accomplish with this campaign. And so the exercise that I encourage people to go through is, if possible, get on a phone call with this brand and say, hey, very interested. This is awesome. But can you share with me, what are you trying to accomplish? What is your goal? What would success look like were we to partner? And brands will say wildly different things when you ask them this question. So they may have assumed that you may have assumed that all they cared about was conversions. This is what a lot of people think, is like, oh, well, I just have to generate a bunch of sales for them. That's all they're going to care about. A lot of brands won't say anything about that. They'll say, oh, well, you know what? We're just honestly trying to generate awareness. We are, up against a stiff competitor and they're taking market share from us, and we just really need to spread the word about our name. Or maybe we're in a new territory now. We were in the US, now we're in the UK. We have a new product, a new feature, right? And so the metrics that they're going to care about, the success metrics, are going to be wildly different. And this is the thing that blows most people's minds, is I say, okay, well, depending on the brand's goals, your pricing should change.
Yeah, definitely agree with that.
So actually, I think we should dig into this real quickly, because I want to share an example, because I think it'll really click for people. So let's say, for example, so in the book I share my framework. It's called the ARC framework. So ARC. So A is awareness, as we mentioned. R is repurposing. And C is conversion. So awareness is, again, new product launch, et cetera. R is repurposing. This one a lot of people don't think about, which is that sometimes the brand will really value just getting that video that you create and running ads with it. That's really what they want. They don't care about you putting it on your podcast, really. That's like a nice added bonus, but being able to run Facebook ads or something with it, that would be huge. And then, C is conversions.
Or end up on TV.
Exactly. Could wind up on TV. Exactly. That's what that brand cared about, right? And so here's a quick example. So let's say that a sponsor approached y'all's podcast, right? And they said, okay, we know, and you asked them what's success, and they said, free trial, our signups for our software tool, right? We have some tool that helps solopreneurs, software program, helps them schedule their social media posts, whatever. I'm making this up. And they say, and so it's a conversion focused goal. And so in their mind, they're thinking to themselves, okay, they're getting 10,000, downloads on average per podcast. I don't know what your numbers are, but let's just assume 10,000 per thing. Of the 10,000 people that listen to our episode, we're going to conservatively assume that 10% sign up for a free trial of the software. So 1,000 people. Of the 1,000 people who sign up for the free trial, we're going to assume that, let's say, 25% sign up from, 1,000 people hit the landing page. Of the 1,000 people on the landing page, 25% sign up for a free trial. So that's 250 people. Of the 250 people who sign up for the free trial, let's say 20% sign up for the paid plan. So that's 50 paying customers. They know that their tool costs $10 a month. People stay their retention for the software tool is 10 months. So their LTV, or their lifetime value of a customer, for them is $100. So $100 times the 50 paying customers that you generated, $5,000 is the max they're going to pay you. And by the way, they don't want to pay you $5,000. That's the break even. The whole reason that they want to partner with you is to turn a profit, right? So they want to pay you a half, a third, a fourth of that, depending on their risk tolerance. So that's a conversion. Let's say the brand says, oh, awareness, that's the goal. What are the metrics they're tracking? Downloads, views, engagement, DMs, like, are people excited, right? So it's kind of a much more amorphous metrics. And so that person's boss is not breathing down their neck, being like, how many, paid customers did we sign up with to our software tool with Michael and Tanya? No, they're not thinking that. They're thinking, are people excited? And so this is why you have to, your negotiating leverage is very, very different depending on the brand's goal.
That's great information.
It sure is. And the repurposing, you can't say enough about it, because let's just say you only had 5 downloads for your, hopefully you have more, but 5 downloads for your podcast, right? But your mailing list is 15,000 people. Okay. We take that same content and we repurpose it and we send it out to our entire database. And that is repurposing that same type of content, which can mean more conversions. If, I mean, a lot of these, I guess, can work together, right?
Well, think about this from the repurposing angle. Let's say it was video content that you were generating for them. If the brand didn't hire you, they would have to go out there and hire a production company, actors and actresses to star in this content. They would have to hire people to edit the content. And then when they found people, when the asset was done, they would have to pay Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to run the ad. So I like to say, like, you are kind of like a production company in a box. You're the creative team, right? You're the camera crew, right? You edit the content, right? You can market the content. And oh, by the way, you have an organic distribution channel to distribute this brand's message. And so if you ever have imposter syndrome, if you're trying to like just very, nervously trying to type back this email to the brand, remember, like, you have a lot of power that I think people don't realize.
Another great point. That's super good point. And it's better for them because you can do that. And we already know, like, the vanity metrics of all social media has changed drastically, right, over the last 15 years. And it is much more colloquial, like, and geographical, right? The days of Gary V are over. Right. And even when I came around, 12 years ago, when I hired Tanya's former company to be my turnkey marketing company, right? She sold me marketing and taught me branding. But even back then, we got to build up our Facebook channel, and they had all the tricks. So people in India were liking they're not going to buy a house from us. So you know what I mean? That's not who I need to be going after. I've got to be specific to these people. I think your message is super huge because of what you just said. People, if you have a podcast and you have a following, you have a listenership, there's somebody that is seeking out your audience, even if those audiences might even boil down to just 50 new customers for that product or those people. That could be huge. You've got all the setup. They don't have to do all of that, and they don't have to think about it, and they can just pay you a portion of that budgeting that they were going to have to do, and cover it. That's gold.
I think that going back to something we talked about a bit earlier, just about this idea about gathering more data from your audience or your listeners or your customers is a really critical part of this, because this is how you distinguish yourself or differentiate yourself from other people being like, I've got 1,000 views download on average for my podcast. But if you're the person who can be like, look, I did a survey and my audience of solopreneurs or my customers of 100, 200 solopreneurs, who, by the way, are all paying me in my multi-$1,000 group coaching program or whatever. These are people who've like taken out their wallets and they're like actually paying me for things. Even though it's 50 or 100 people, they have this active issue with something that your company solves with your products.
You bet. How
would you like to get in front of this small, concentrated group of people that have purchasing power, right? And so it's like, if you have data there, they will instantly choose you over the person with 50,000 followers who has absolutely no data, because there's really not a good sense that they have of whether it will convert.
Oh yeah, another great point.
Oh yeah. Now I want to switch just a moment to the mechanics of going after these sponsors.
Okay.
You talk about 3 non-negotiable items or elements that every sponsorship pitch must include. Can you share that with us?
Sure. So I have a framework, a pitching methodology that I teach called the ROPE method, ROPE. So there's really 4 key elements here. So your pitch, your outreach, when you're trying to get on the radar of a sponsor, is your pitch has to be relevant to a campaign that the brand is either currently running or has run in the past. O stands for organic, meaning that you can tie your pitch back to work that you've already published that illustrates that your audience or your customers have existing affinity for their brand or their company. P stands for proof, so you can show how you've helped others achieve results. And E stands for easy to execute. When they say, hey, yeah, we're actually kind of interested. So you're actually pitching them something. You're not just saying, oh, would love to figure out a way to collaborate. You're saying, no, I'm going to do this for you. And so this really, I want to focus a lot on this relevancy piece, the first part of it, because the form that a lot of people's outreach takes, it's very narcissistic, frankly. It's like, hi, I have this podcast, I get this many downloads, I have these demographics, love your brand, I've used it for 3 years. What do you think? Should we collaborate? And that version, I know that this is the pitch that most people send because I've been on the receiving end when I ran the agency for many, many years, right? And so if you just very simply can tweak this and say like, look, the brand of the company, they don't know who I am. They don't care that I have this many followers, by the way, because there's lots of people on the internet who have large followings and large viewership on downloads on their podcasts or whatever. If the first sentence of this pitch email can be, I saw that you were running this campaign last Black Friday. Are you going to be running that campaign again this year? Simple as that. You go back, you do the research. What were they doing last year? Chances are they're probably going to do a very similar campaign this year. I would love to help you amplify that if you're doing that again this year in the following ways. Boom, 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 boom. So it's a very simple kind of tweak to the positioning. It's still a sponsorship pitch, but it's leading with what's in it for them.
Yep.
Oh gosh, I love that. It reminds me, Justin, of years ago, back in the probably 80s, early 90s, where there was a book out called "Don't Make Me Think." Now the book was all about building a website, right? So it was all about the customer experience. But I love that thought process applied to this, because if I'm saying, okay, if you're going to do this, then here are the things that we can do to help you specifically, and here's some takeaways, here's some bullet points, here's exactly how we're going to get this done. That's an easy yes. A very easy yes. So, gosh, I love this. I could stay on with you for a long time. So if you would be so kind as to come back sometime, Justin, we would love that.
Yeah, this has been such a blast. I'm super appreciative. I nerd out over this topic. This very, very niche topic, I guess, around sponsorships. But yeah, honestly, we've just kind of scratched the surface of everything that I can teach you about how to make more money working with brands and companies and things like that. And so, yeah, if anyone wants to go further down the rabbit hole, you can pick up my book at sponsormagnet.com.
Absolutely. We're going to let's go over three real quick takeaways. Very hard to choose three out of this. And so the first one,
feverishly taking notes over here. And
the first one is, I just love the simplicity of the fact that, listen, listeners, there are many, many, many ways to make a lot of money beyond a 9 to 5. And so that's a great place to start wherever you are.
Yeah, exactly. And another simple one that speaks to a lot of the coaches, consultants, and the experts that we work with is, it's not about how many people, downloads, etc. It's about what impact. Never heard it put quite that way, Justin.
Yep. And then the next one I really like, no matter what you're pitching, is this really should be where you should start, right? Ask your potential sponsors, in this case with Justin, what are you trying to accomplish? That's just a great lead-in question to anything, right? It puts the impetus back on the person that you're fixing to try to offer a service to. Fantastic. Yeah. Great way of phrasing it.
Exactly. All right. And remember, sponsormagnet.com. Sponsor Magnet is the name of the book. Anything else you want to share with the audience, Justin?
No, I super appreciate it. I guess the last thing is, like, you can do this. Like, anyone listening, if you just had any inkling of doubt, like, this is not for me, like, believe me, I have any example that you want to, but this random niche or this super specific B2B or healthcare thing or what, you name it, I've seen it. Like, sponsorships are for everyone. It's not just for people dancing on TikTok.
I love it.
Love it. Thank you so much, Justin. It'd be great to see you again too.
Ready to change how you're seen and charge what you're worth? If you're not getting enough opportunities to meet with ideal customers, or the prospects you're meeting with just aren't ideal, it's most likely your brand that's holding you back. So if you're a coach, consultant, or expert who is on the rise, you need our ultimate guide to a freedom-based brand. Download it free now at BrandFaceGuide.com.